There we go. Merry Meet Witches.
Merry Meet Witches.
I'm Gory B Movie.
And I'm Kayla.
And today, we're going to be talking about our, well, not even just our favorite. We're going to be talking about just 2024 and our reading journey, the highs, the lows, what we liked, what we didn't like, what's really stuck with us, what we recommended to you. Yay, good. I'm glad it sounds good. So in case you're wondering our whole debacle, I got a very expensive microphone, and it had nothing but issues with it. Now we're using my cheap Snowball, and it's working great. So, as long as everyone's happy, I'm happy.
Less is more.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a good lesson to take into 2025.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about, just kind of books that we want to recommend to you. We're not going to just be talking about books that were released in 2024. So, we'll also be talking about just what we read in 2024. As you can see from the thumbnail, some of those books were not released in 2024. And we also want to hear from you guys, what were your reading highs and lows, and also, what was your reading challenge? Did you make your reading challenge? What's it going to be next year?
Did you surpass your reading challenge?
Some people did. I feel called out.
I'm proud of you. I'm also just jealous.
But this is your year, dude.
We'll see.
We're going to talk about it.
We'll see.
We're going to talk about it.
See.
Look, Mummy B Movie's here. Look how cute
Mummy.
she is. Yay, thank you. I'm glad the audio is sounding good. Just let us know, because we're still experimenting with the audio and stuff. So that's why it was muted when you came on here, because I had to switch to a different microphone. Anyway, it's just going on house on fire. Kayla brought back the Galadriel. Is somebody saying that right?
No, Galadriel.
Eat my butt. That's from Lord of the Rings, though, yes?
It sure is.
So,
yes.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if they can see Pipkin, God's favorite boy.
My face is in the way.
He's in the corner there. I moved him over there, so when we talk about Pipkin, God's favorite boy who loves Halloween, you now can see him. So him and October have moved over there.
There, now you can see it.
Just if he does anything crazy, we'll point it out.
I'm so glad that somebody read a book.
I read a couple books.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, Fairpoint Station says, I read We Used to Live Here. It was fun. Very no sleep. It actually was posted as a serial on the No Sleep Reddit. So good call on that. Also, I wanted to show you guys what I got for Christmas. One of the books that we're going to be talking about this year. Dungeon Crawler Carl. This will be from the second book. This is an outrage. There's Donut and absolutely appalled. That's Mongo from Dungeon Crawler Carl. I freaking love this shirt. It's amazing. I'd love to hear, let's talk about our challenges.
Okay.
No shame to anybody. If you go on my Goodreads, there are many years where I had very small goals, and I read, no books. No books.
Yeah.
So.
I've definitely had those years where I have, been I'm going to read 10 books, and I read one.
I have a lot of past challenges on here where I'm like, I'm going to read 10 or 5 even, and I didn't read even one.
Yeah.
You know, some years are just like that.
But
so
you've really found your flow.
I think I have found my ant flow this year. This is actually the most I've read in my entire life, as far as I've tried to log as best as possible. I roughly guesstimate when I read books. So, I mean, maybe there were some years when I was really young and I was reading like every Babysitter's Club book known to man. Possibly. Possibly, but I think this is my biggest year. So my goal was 75 books, and I read 110. So, yeah, I read like 35 books more.
I'm so proud of you.
So here's something really cool on Goodreads that they're doing that's new. They now have additional challenges, which I really like that because I just like gamifying my reading. So some of them are like January Reader, where you just read one book in January. It's pretty easy. But they also have some other ones, and they have more that are mysteries that will be revealed later. But they have some where... I know one of them was like a historical fiction one, The Era Explorer.
Well, that's fun.
One was Buzzy Books. It's just kind of like books most people on Goodreads really like. Epic Quest was ones that have some kind of a journey. So I kind of have been tagging them in my to read because I'd like to do as many of those as possible.
So it's like achievements, like when you play a game.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So like, for example, challenge details. So let's go to this view here and see if this works. Oh no. Hold on. There we go. Oh no. There we go. So this is kind of what I was talking to you guys about. The challenge details page. So like they have Buzzy Books, which these are reader favorites, and so then you click on browse qualifying books, and it gives you this whole page of like the most read or I think most liked books. And like there's books I want to read on here. And then just going through this today, I was finding some new books I want to read.
There's books you have read on here.
Yeah. So, but they don't count for this year. Yeah.
We read that
Project Hail Mary was
I read
really
that
good.
one. I have that one at home.
Nice. Well, there you go. So you should go through this. And then what I did is I would click on the book. And I'm trying to find one that I added. See, now I just feel like a liar.
Yeah.
So The Frozen River was a historical fiction book that I was interested in. So you just click on it, and then you can add like whatever tags you want. So I know that I did that just so I'd remember.
Nice. You're so smart.
Yeah, I just want to do more challenges. Oh look, there's Brandon Meacham right here in my feed. He wants to read the new Stephen Graham Jones book. That's a good call.
What's that one about?
The Buffalo Hunter. Set in 1912.
Ooh.
It's like a vampire hunter, but it sounds like it's kind of like...
That sounds like fun. I want to read that one.
I see his premises always get me, dude. But then I get stuck.
And then you're like, I can't do it.
I don't know. Some reason, me and Stephen Graham Jones have had a hard time.
Your
new library is huge, Gory. I mean, I might be down with it. I also got the Dungeon Crawler Horror hardbacks. You can kind of see them. I'm not even know. It's above Kayla's head, where that rainbow dash is.
Oh, here.
So Heather says, I had 12 5-star books in 2024 and only 2 1-star books, a ton of middle-of-the-road ones. I mean, that's kind of how it is.
But 12 5-star seems great.
I had a lot of 5-star books this year, too. I think what I will start with, just because I have the shirt and I just mentioned the hardbacks, you know, I've always loved reading, so I have a lot of favorite literary characters, like, you know, Elizabeth Bennet and Jane Eyre and Harry Potter and... all the characters. Queen Betsy. But now, my favorite literary character is Princess Donut, the Queen Anne Chunk.
The Queen Anne Chunk.
She is my favorite literary character of all the times. I just adore her because, like, on the one hand, she's a character in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I started reading this year. The author I've met before is from Gig Harbor, Washington. We're from Washington. And they are a fantasy lit RPG. So kind of think like a combination of like online or any kind of role playing games, World of Warcraft, Warhammer, that kind of thing. And it's in like a Hunger Games type setting where our whole world is flat and everything is harvested, and then use that for an intergalactic game show where People have to fight all kinds of enemies in order to progress to the next level, hopefully finishing the crawl. Anyway, it's fantastic. And if that doesn't sound interesting to you, you and me both, because the guy was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, my brother would love that. My brother Dusty would love that, Zigma. But it didn't really seem like my thing. So I got the audiobook from my brother, and he loved it. He's like, you need to read it. And he recommended it for book club, so we had to read it. And the characters are so good in this book that I think even if it does not sound like your thing at all, I think a really, really great characters make some books transcend genre. You know, there are some books that I would say, like, it doesn't matter who you are, you should read this book just because it's great literature.
It is.
Harry Potter's like one of those books. I think most people like Harry Potter, even if you don't like fantasy.
There's something in it for everybody, and it does have a lot of depth. It is, you know, it's a game. It's a game, but there's so much more that goes into it. It's about, like, capitalism and, like, war and morality. There's, like, so many things, friendship, so many themes going on in their relationships, like cheating. There's a lot that goes on. They are really good. I've only gotten about halfway through the first one. I just have a lot of other things going on, not because I didn't like it, but I will
so good
finish it one of these days.
The world building is incredible. It's so detailed. It's so believable. I initially started reading these because they are all available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that service, you can read them there. And there are indeed fart jokes because we need those in our life.
Yeah, I mean, Carl is a dude.
Yeah, he's
a dude. He's like a Coast Guard.
At one point, one of my favorite jokes is because Princess Donut, the reason I love her is she was a show cat. And so she competed and stuff, and then she's suddenly given, like, intelligence, and so at first she's kind of selfish, like you would imagine a cat to be, but she really does care about Carl, and even though she is kind of hoity-toity, she does really care about her friends, and she does have some hidden layers of depth to her, but sometimes she'll get a little, like, high on her own supply, and, like, Carl will have to remind her, like, I've had to cut poop out of your fur before. And
Don't
she's
forget.
Like, the one I'm reading right now, she's talking about her different skills, and she has one for trailing, it's litter navigation. He's like, because you track litter everywhere. She's like, I do not!
Just get stuck in their little
I
pockets.
love, like, just the little reminders that she is still a cat, even though she's this kind of, you know, but I mean, it kind of reminds me of, like, a lot of characters where they're a little stuck up, but they have a good heart. Like, she's not like this character, but in the same respect as, like, Cher from Clueless, where she was, you know, stuck up, but she had a very good heart. That's how Donut
Cher
is.
meant well.
Yes.
She was trying to find her place in the world. So, yeah, Donut's the same. I think that's a good comparison.
The books are laugh out loud funny. Every single one of these books, I've laughed out loud. I've highlighted parts of it, and I've already read Dungeon Crawler Carl twice. I read it through on Kindle, then I read it to my husband, and my brother and I are going to a reptile expo this month, and we're going to listen to the audiobook, The Immersion Tunnel.
Oh, nice.
So the audiobooks are really good. Jeff Hayes does a fantastic job. He does fantastic voices for all of them, which is incredible. And then for book one, there's an audio immersion tunnel if you would prefer that. And that's a full cast recording with Jeff Hayes still doing Donut and Carl.
Cool. That's cute.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
And those were on Sound Booth Theater. The first episode of The Immersion Tunnel is free. So that's the way to get started if you want to. But yeah, they're fantastic. I highly, highly, highly recommend them. I now have the first 3 books in hardback. I'm going to go get them signed at Crypticon in May. And the next 3 will be out March, April, and May of this year. And then I guess the rest of them probably.
Do you know how many books there are going to be in total?
He has said he thinks there's going to be 10.
Okay.
But I don't want to think about that. I just want them for forever. Honestly, I read them all back to back, and then I read some other stuff, and then I started to miss the characters.
So the more you think about it, so you had said that they were going to they were going to make it a TV show?
That's the plan.
Do you think it will be animated? Do you want it to be animated? What do you want it to be?
Fuzzy
what are your
Door,
hopes and dreams?
which is Seth MacFarlane's company. Not Seth MacFarlane. The Family Guy guy.
Yeah, that's Seth MacFarlane. The other one is
Todd
Todd
I'm thinking Todd MacFarlane. I'm like,
yep,
okay.
always.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah,
my brain.
Seth.
Anyway, he bought it. I think it would be best if it was animated. The one I picture the guy who plays the really big guy from Umbrella Academy as Carl.
Okay.
But if they do it animated, Jeff Hayes has to do the voices of Carl and Donut.
I think they could do a lot with it animated, especially with how, like, Rick and Morty took off, they could do something like that with this book series.
The guy who does Blitzo and Hell of a Boss, he has to be the AI. He's just so perfect. But yeah, Heather, because I love Heather, and I'm so glad Heather is here. It's a real treat because Heather I follow on Goodreads. Heather, like, you think I read a lot of books? I think Heather read like 400 books this year. I'm not even joking.
I'm so jealous.
If I go through my feed, like, I'm telling you, like, there's Heather reading books. Heather read how many books did you read, Heather? I'm trying to go look. Heather's year in books. She reads so many books. She read
248 books. Girl.
You're like my hero. But yeah, she reads a lot of the same books that I read. Oh, she read Gone Girl. Nice. I love Gone Girl. She reads Southern Book Club, but she also reads, a lot of things that I haven't heard of yet. So sometimes I find books I'm like, ooh, we have similar tastes. So a lot of times if Heather's reading it, like, I've noticed too, like, she'll be reading a book I've already read and I will wait. And her star rating is usually pretty close to mine. Not that it needs to be. I respect all opinions, but I absolutely love them. So I really highly think that you will too, because we seem to have similar tastes. And alrighty, okay. What do you want to talk about next?
Well, so Brandon asked if we read Brandon Sanderson books, or he asked if somebody reads them.
That sounds familiar.
Brandon, he's a big fantasy author. I've actually never read any of his books because it seems like such an undertaking, right? Mm-hmm. But I know he has written a few, like, one-offs, so maybe that might be a good place to start if you could recommend a one-off that's not a huge series to get into. But then, I only read like 11 books this year.
We should talk about your challenge.
My challenge this year was 15 books. And I read 11, but I got halfway through 3 pretty big books, if that counts for anything.
I think it does. I mean,
does it?
Like, I noticed, like, a lot of people I know who read a lot of books, they read books of varying lengths. Mm-hmm. The longest book I read this year was over 700 pages. That was one of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books. The shortest book I read was a short story called Ushers by Joe Hill. It was 29 pages. It doesn't matter. And honestly, if that helps you, like, reach your goal, or at least helps you to read more, then, read. So I read a lot of comic books. I usually choose, like, the omnibuses that are longer, but I've also read just all, like, silly little Buffy books that are really short.
But those kinds of things help your momentum too, for sure.
Reading books to your kids, like Heather was saying, I've been reading to in peace for my kids to get up, my husband get up. But you could also, like, read to your kids. Like, I know Heather had some Goosebump books on hers, and I used to do that with my son too when he was little.
I love that.
I read to my husband, and he's not a kid.
He's not. Well, he is a kid, but he's an adult.
He kind of is a kid.
He's a grown kid.
Let's be honest about it.
Kayla Marie. Kayla, that's me. I did not like that book. So I read
Kayla's Year in Books. It's so fancy.
So fancy. So, do you want to share this one to that?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Look at you.
Look at this. Look at that. How fancy. That. Oh my god, the show's so fancy now.
So fancy. So yeah, I read 11
It's probably
books.
Fancier if I don't over-explain
it's very, very fancy. So the books that I didn't finish, I should tell you because they're long. I'm over halfway through The Sword of Shannara and The Once and Future King. Both very, very long books. But I also read The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And we read The Last Unicorn, which
we did read
lovely.
The Last Unicorn.
I loved Project Hail Mary. I keep telling Doug he should read it, especially before the movie comes out, because it was such a pleasure.
Yeah, so what was your goal?
My goal was 15.
You got pretty freaking close.
I got
11.
Close.
Like, I was trying to squeeze in some, like, short books for her to help her.
But I just couldn't make it happen before the end of the year.
And honestly, like, I don't think, like, Dungeon Crawler Carl, those books are really long, and I breezed through those. I remember there was one book I didn't finish last year. It's The Salt Grows Heavy. It was like 150 pages, but it was too much, and I didn't finish it. So, it's
sometimes
to be a good story.
There was a few that I quit reading, like Doug recommended reading Communion, and I just, whatever place I was in at the time, I could not finish it. I was like, this is too much. It's making me feel like a lunatic, so I had to stop reading that one.
I think that's absolutely 100% okay. Like, if you're really not enjoying something and it's not for school or something that you have to read, I think it's 100% okay after you've given it a couple chapters, and you don't even have to do that. It's your own time.
Yeah.
To just say, you know what, this isn't for me, and to DNF it.
DNF it. And maybe someday I will go back and finish it.
That's what I always do. I always do, like, did not finish for now. For a lot of times, I just am not in the right mood for this right now.
Exactly. So, and in general, I am happy with the books that I did read. I liked all the books I was reading. I just wish I'd had a little more time to read more. But I'll get there.
So, your longest book was Project Hail Mary. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah. I cried.
It's so
bawled.
good.
I feel like I don't cry a lot these days.
That book, though.
That book, though.
And it's like a happy cry.
Yeah, but it was also like a so many like an anxious cry. Like, what is going to happen? How are they going to get through this? Like, I can't handle, like, on the edge of my seat.
That was the thing with Project Hail Mary is I'm reading it. I'm so invested in the characters, and I kept thinking, I don't know how this is going to end well. Like, I couldn't think of an ending that would make me happy. I was so invested in Rocky and Grace's, friendship, and I'm like, even if they both, like, get what they want, like,
they're never going to see each other again. Like, their beautiful friendship was going to end. Like, there was just no true happy ending for everybody. But
I feel like the ending is perfect.
It was perfect. It was really beautiful, really well done. And I haven't read anything else by Andy Weir. I did watch The Martian, thought it was fine, but it has made me rethink him as an author, because the way this book was written, I was like, oh, I could do this over and over and over again.
He's really funny. That's another one too where I feel like it just had all the emotions. Like, it was funny, it was heartwarming, it had a lot of science fiction in it.
It was very smart, but it doesn't make you feel like an idiot.
Yeah. That's why when I was casting it in my head, I pictured Paul Rudd, because he's the kind of person where even when he's playing a character who's super smart, he doesn't ever feel like he's talking down to you.
Exactly.
Like, he feels like a nice guy. But Ryan Gosling will play him, and I think he'll do a good job.
I think he will too. He has quite a bit of range. I think he'll do all right.
He has a home on the range.
He has a Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Yes, he does. He does. Brandon said, my longest read of 2024 was Gilded by Marissa Meyer. I actually, it's 502 pages. I've met Marissa Meyer, and I have a collection on my shelf of signed books. And one of my signed books is Cinder, because Marissa Meyer, she's from Tacoma, and she actually came to my small town, Wenatchee, and I met her and had her sign my book.
Oh, lovely.
And her first book was a NaNoWriMo book.
Oh, fun.
Which is really cool.
Neat.
So,
I love it.
she was really sweet.
Love that.
I have a lot of signed books. I'm going to get my Dungeon Crawler Carl signed.
It's a good thing he's
Was Leatherface always there?
Who?
Leatherface just sitting there on top of the couch? And what's, I don't know, my fuggler? There's weird things going on my couch.
What's that little thing called?
A fuggler?
No, the thing next to it.
A boglin?
A boglin. What's it from?
It's just a boglin?
Oh.
It's ugly.
Toys?
I don't like it.
I'm sorry you don't.
What's that one called?
That's Rocky. He's on the floor.
That's Rocky.
It looks like he's being ridden like Falcor by the fuggler.
Those
yeah! Yeah. Oh, he decorated the couch. Well, there we go.
Oh, thank you.
For decorating.
We love it.
We love it. Oh, I gotta have Vincent Price from Lulz. You see that?
No.
Oh, Vincent Price figure.
Where?
And
I see
he
it.
got me a Dracula Care Bear.
Oh, that's so cute.
Pretty cool.
I like that one.
So Heather says, I've heard nothing but good things about Project Hail Mary. I need to try and read it this year. That will be one to branch out to. Absolutely. Like that. So that's another one where Zygmunt's 2 for 2. Because he told me that, and I'm like, I don't like books set in space. To me, it's just too far removed from, like, I like things kind of grounded. I was like, I'm not going to like it. I was on The Martian, and I read it. And also, I will recommend to anyone who wants to read Project Hail Mary and hasn't, I'm going to say the audiobook is better.
Yes.
And the reason why is one of the characters, an alien that he becomes friends with, he speaks in kind of a musical language. So it's so much cooler when you can hear it. They do eventually learn how to speak each other's languages, and so it won't be like that the whole book. But it does make the audiobook so much better. Plus, the guy who reads it does a great job with all the voices and everything.
I agree. And honestly, like, I'm the kind of person, like, I like to be a contrarian. If everybody likes something, I automatically, like, don't want to get on the bandwagon. And I feel like Project Hail Mary is kind of like that. Like, if you get on Reddit, everybody's like, oh my god, Project Hail Mary, they loved it. It's truly good, and it's truly worth it. It is a moving story, and everybody loves it for a reason. Like, I have that relationship with Harry Potter, where sometimes, like, everybody likes Harry Potter. I'm so over it. But it's a great story, and everybody loves it for a reason. And I hope, if you're a contrarian like me, you can get over it and read this book.
I feel like with a lot of books, the reason why I would recommend them to people who don't even like that genre is because of the characters. Like, you know, Project Hail Mary and Dungeon Crawler Carl, even something like Little Women, it's great characters. So I don't care that you don't read historical fiction. Yeah. These are fantastic characters. You need to read this. Yes. You know, same reason why I recommend a lot of Stephen King books to people. He writes great characters. That's why these books have remained in publication for so long.
Well, like that episode of Friends where Chandler and Joey and Rachel
that's actually
swap
the books
their
in the freezer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because they're books they wouldn't normally read, but they both end up loving them. Like, it's loved for a reason. Give it a shot.
And that's a good segue because that's what we did with Project Hail Mary. I recommended it to you because I really wanted you to read it. And you recommended The Last Unicorn to me. The Last Unicorn.
I'm alive. So good. God,
and then we watched that movie.
Yes, we did. And do you feel like your life is better for having experienced it?
Yeah, I also really loved the introduction on that by Patrick Rothfuss. I thought that was so really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think absolutely, like, if you're somebody who likes, like, Labyrinth, or even another book we read this year, like The Halloween Tree, like that kind of fantastical, but it's also, like, good for adults type book.
There's a lot, like, I've seen The Last Unicorn, the cartoon, hundreds of times, but I had never read the book before this year. But I was like, it's short. I know we can bust it out. And I'm so glad I did. I wish I had read it sooner, but as an adult, like, I feel like there were things I took from it that I wouldn't have taken from it if I had read it as a teen. There's a lot of really deep things in it.
I think it's the kind of book you can read as a child and really like it. Like, I felt like that with the Narnia books. And then you read them as an adult and you're going to get more from it. That is one, though, I did listen to the audiobook and I didn't like it as much as reading it for myself because the language that he uses is so good that I think it's best read. Yeah. Like, just on a lazy afternoon where, you know, you have your time to just really absorb the reading.
In a golden meadow surrounded by bunnies and deer.
Sparkly vampires. Yeah. We're from the Pacific Northwest. We do it our way.
We do. It's great. We love it.
Edward on one side, Sasquatch on the other.
What is there to complain about?
Exactly. Yeah. That's how we roll in the PNW.
Yeah. Well, was there anything that really stood out? That's another one that I want to read is The Neverending Story. It's been on my list for a long time.
Brandon read that this year. I saw that. Yeah. And, Brandon also has a book club.
Yes.
Which I'm in, but I need to actually read the books. You know, I'm going to try to do better on that because I'm also a member of Books in the Freezer too, but I need to, like, see what other people are reading more and catch up on other book clubs.
Absolutely.
But I read the books in our book club.
And I barely did that, so...
You only have to read one book. We added 4 books because I was reading so many.
But The Neverending Story is on my list, and when you guys started reading it, I was like, oh, I want to read that with you, but then I failed a class, so I had other things to focus on.
Another big change this year is we used to be Bloody Book Club.
Yes.
Where we just did horror, and now we're Strange and Unusual Book Club, where it's anything weird.
Yeah.
So fantasy, horror, science fiction, mystery, thriller... Pretty much, it's pretty open.
Yeah, it can be whatever we want it to be. Just maybe, I mean, I hate to, like, call people out, but, like, maybe not James Patterson.
Yeah, I don't think that's weird enough.
No. I mean, who knows? Maybe he can surprise us and he'll put out a fantasy novel.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be reading, like, the Jack Reacher novels.
No. I do want to read those, though.
We're not reading it for this book club. Okay? No, it's not strange or unusual enough.
No, it's really not.
It has to meet those requirements. Is it strange?
I love some espionage.
And unusual.
And that's not.
Not.
No, okay, got it.
Okay, this is why we have these meetings.
Okay, I love it. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Notes taken. I'll get the minutes in the file.
Yes. But yeah, so like we'll be able to read, and we read a lot of new releases. Like I think especially towards the end of the year here, I'm trying to catch up on some new releases because we've got like the Oscars coming up. I think I want to be able to vote, and have actually an opinion about the best books of the year and stuff. Plus, usually a lot of times people like a lot of the best books of the year for a reason.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Like, do you know if Incidents Around the House or like We Used to Live Here are going to be on the docket?
Well, we are going to pick the nominees that people narrow down and vote for the Oscars.
So you don't know yet.
So, I mean, I'm going to suggest it. Okay. And then also anybody else who wants to, when Danny posts them, can suggest nominees. Okay. So, we suggest our nominee. I'm nominating it. So, but if nobody votes for it, nobody votes for it.
Because both of those were so good for very different reasons.
Yeah, let's talk about those books.
Okay. We Used to Live Here was terrifying from the gate. I could not put it down. I think I said when I first started, or when I texted you, I was like, it is unputdownable.
Yeah, it was.
Like, from the first page, you're just like, oh my God, get out of the situation.
It's so, like, it's so many different kinds of anxiety, too.
Like, social anxiety and relationship anxiety and stranger anxiety.
Honestly, I don't scare easy. I think the last time before reading this book that I was scared of a book was, I think when I read The Boogeyman when I was like 12. It's a short story by Stephen King, and my closet was open just a crack. Scared the crap out of me. By the way, if that story scares you, Incidents Around the House, highly recommend. But no, this one really scared me because I think the thing that scares me the most is not being able to trust my own mind. Like, to be told that right now I'm not actually sitting here, I'm actually walking down the street. Right. To not be able to trust what I see and hear and think is happening, to, the idea of, like, even going, like, crazy, or even something like having dementia is really, really scary to me. I'm somebody who, like, really prides themselves on, like, learning new things and stuff, and to have that just disappear.
Yeah, you're a pretty sharp cookie.
Is
that a thing?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I like the cut of your jib.
There you go.
Yeah, but in this book, like, it's so crazy, and you get so much anxiety about it. Like, just one small example is they buy this house, because this couple, they buy houses and they flip them, and the house has a stained glass window upstairs. And our main character, who has a lot of anxiety, the next day, it is not a stained glass window. She goes to her partner, Charlie, and she asks her, and she's like, no, that definitely was a stained glass window. And she doesn't know, she can't explain how it happened, because Charlie's very, like, down to earth. And has a logic. She scullies everything. Yep. And she can't explain it. But I was just, like, so relieved in that moment that somebody else could verify it for her, because, like, that would drive me crazy. Little things like that would drive me crazy.
There's a couple, like, the more I think about that, there was a few, like, grounding things in that book. But it's just crazy. And Heather, you're going to enjoy it.
Heather didn't read it?
No, she says she's picking it up from the library.
Oh, you
Monday.
have to. It's so good. It's so
good.
scary. And the characters are so good. Like, there's one part, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but oh my gosh, the scariest part is the hotel room scene.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's the other thing, too. Like, this book does, like, what Sinister did, where you're just like, oh my God, you need to. But, like, just like in Sinister, you're like, get the hell out of the house. Get out. Why are you there? The house is scary. They leave. The book's not over.
It's not over.
Like, and I love that. I love that it has this, like, understanding of what the audience is shouting at the pages. And it does it. And then it's so painful to read. And the mystery is so layered. Here's the crazy thing about this book. Like, at the end of every chapter, there's Morse code. So I read it. So I saw the Morse code, and I copied and pasted it. And then I decoded the whole thing. There's layers. There's glyphs in here, and the glyphs are really hard. I couldn't decipher those. I actually cheated and went and read it.
I translated the Norwegian.
Yeah, I translated the Norwegian, but I couldn't figure out that it was Norwegian. So I was like, it's gibberish. But there's also hidden messages and stuff. And there's so many weird things. Like, our main character, she has anxiety, which, by the way, I know Blake Lively's supposed to star in this, but God, I think Kristen Stewart would be so good as her.
I don't know. I haven't seen Blake Lively in a lot of things, so I can't really say one way or another how she'll do, but
I pictured Kristen Stewart. Yeah. And Aubrey Plaza for her partner.
That would be cute.
Yeah, I heard this. But I'm saying Kristen Stewart's character. The main character, what was her name anyway? Eve. That's right.
Yeah.
There's so many little hidden things in here. And like in one of them, she's told by her therapist to give her anxiety a persona to make it less scary and daunting. Mm-hmm. So she gives it the persona of her favorite toy as a kid, which is kind of like the Jolly Chimp symbol monkey, but it's a white monkey with like a straw hat and clear symbols. Mm-hmm. And she said she lost it when she was a kid. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. That's the voice she has talking to her. The next chapter, because there's like little chapters in between each chapter from Eve's point of view, tells that it's a Reddit post basically saying a lot of people remember this toy and it did not exist. It's a Mandela effect thing. Mm-hmm. So many people remember this toy and there's no evidence of it. And they even has a website address, and then you can go to the website address, and if you click around in there, I think there's a whole page of nothing like we're watching you, we're watching. It's so scary, guys. You can go down this rabbit hole. And a lot of the secrets, because there's a Reddit page where they track all this stuff, a lot of them haven't even all been solved yet.
But you also don't have to do that to enjoy the book.
Probably sounds like homework.
It's not. You can do none of that and have a great time reading the book. It's very... Because I didn't do any of that. I did translate the Norwegian because I was like, what's going on here? But that was really easy. I just highlighted it on my Kindle.
Danny says, never translate the Norwegian.
Why? I did it.
You mean the Latin, Danny.
Oh, yeah. That's the Latin. I'm not bringing back the devil or anything. Anyway, that book was very, very good and
really
very,
scary,
very scary. So
I
also would nominate it for a favorite horror.
This was what I voted for best book of the year, best debut author of the year, and I would say it's one of the scariest books I've ever read. I would say this, even though it sounds weird that I'm recommending because I haven't finished House of Leaves. But I think it's easier to read than House of Leaves because I've tried House of Leaves and not finished it multiple times.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing where, it's got lots of little things in it.
Yeah.
The ending scared me, but I can see why there'd be different opinions on that.
I also see that, but I also felt like it just... Yeah, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. Okay, but let's talk about incidents around the house.
Yes.
That book was devastating.
Oh, my goodness. Do you remember all the things that happened in that book?
I do. I'll never forget them.
I know.
They're burned in my brain.
All the incidents.
So you haven't read it, and I know I've talked about it before.
I've read incidents around the house.
No, not that. The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling.
Have not read it.
Okay, you got it. It's so good. I think about that book regularly.
I need to read that. What's it about?
It's about this small little village somewhere in England, and they have like this town council for the greater good. It's not like, from Hot Fuzz.
I was thinking of that.
So they have
That's
this
so weird.
town council, and this guy dies that's on the council. So there's this opening. So all of the adults in this town are trying to get onto the council. There's all this other junk going around. There's like people on drugs. They're fighting to like not get this other thing happening in this town next door. Like a lot of small town politics. But then like the way, I can't even explain it. Heartbreaking. Devastating. I think about it all the time, and because it was written by J.K. Rowling, it made me change the way I feel about Harry Potter books. Like, it really changed how I see the way she sees children. Like, it was very upsetting. This book did the same thing for me.
Brandon says it sounds so much like Coraline, and I do think there's aspects of that, but very quickly. So this little girl, she has a woman... It's like an entity that lives in her closet. And it used to just start in the closet. And she said at first it was friendly, but now it's upsetting her because all the time I ask, can I live inside your heart? And it's not nice looking. I don't know why she ever thought it was friendly, because this thing can go from small to like the size of a house. And its eyes can be on the top or on the bottom or on the side of its face.
And it's covered in black hair.
Yes, it's very hairy and scary. And she calls it other mommy, but this thing has never tried to like say it's her mother. What it can do, and what it does do multiple times through the book though, is it will look like other people. So she'll think her mother or her grandmother or her father or anybody else she knows is talking to her.
Yeah.
The bathroom scene.
Oh, God,
don't read this.
Scary.
Don't read this book in the bathroom.
No,
That's Gory's advice. I read a lot. You know what? I'm just gonna come out and say I read a lot in the toilet. That's how you read as many books as me this year. Heather, you've read like twice as many books as me. Like, we're both doing it. Don't read this book on the toilet.
No, do not. Do not. yeah, this book was heartbreaking because it's from the perspective of the child. Her parents are kind of party animals. They're dealing with a lot of their own things, and they're unloading on her in a really inappropriate way. Yeah, it just was a rough emotional roller coaster.
I think really good books kind of challenge the way we think about things and make us consider how we're living our lives. And this book talked a lot about like what to do when you're in pain and those horrible negative feelings that come inside your heart. And like when she's saying let me inside your heart, it's almost like that negativity or that ugliness that can make you jaded with age or make you bitter. It's almost like what if that feeling that can make you bitter or jaded actually asked you, and before you adopted it as part of your personality and became like a grumpy old woman or man, you actually consciously thought about that. And it talks about how there's some people who are open floor plans and everything just goes in and out. And for some people, they hang on to that negativity and make it a statue that does not leave the room. And eventually it becomes cluttered and there's these really dark closets and recesses and stuff. And it really made me think about that. Like, you know, am I keeping anything in my house that doesn't need to be in there?
Yeah.
Do I need a clean house?
Clean it out.
And it also made me think about, like, you know, children and stuff, too. Like, that these parents really, I think, kind of pride themselves. They're young, but I think they kind of pride themselves on being cool parents. Like, they let their kid during their party and stuff. And I think they're really selfish.
Yeah, I think so, too. But it's a great book. Just bring a box of tissues.
Yeah, I think being open with your kids is one thing. But I also think, to a certain degree, we need to, like, preserve our kids' innocence and allow them to just be kids and not overwhelm them, because they are so easily overwhelmed. And these parents, like, I feel like the amount of stress they put on their daughter with just their fighting and all the things going on in their lives and what she's picking up on, because she's very, very perceptive. I feel like they're to blame for why this entity is attached to her. Like, they think the entity's attached to her because she's innocent. I think it's this turmoil she's experiencing in her home. It's creating cracks that allow this negativity
to
you know,
And, I agree with that 100%. Because it does feel that way at first, because she is so sweet and she's just trying her best. She's little. She's like, what, 7, 8? But, yeah.
Dude, the harsh truth, your buddy is the coolest. Is your buddy me? Am I your buddy? Was I there? Because I love Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's the best. I got the hardbacks, I got the shirt, I got the mug. Like, I love it so much. I love the whole series. I'm reading the 7th one now. My brother's annoyed, Zigma, because he is also reading it. A box of tissues, or that kind of like, Danny.
No, like...
But yeah, by the way, Zigma, I think I'm on chapter 8. I don't know. He's like way farther and he's annoyed with me.
Wow, you'll get there.
Such is the way.
You have other things to do. He can just calm down.
If the book makes me cry, I'm trashing it. Nobody makes me cry unless I...
Well,
it makes me think
bleed
of
my own
Drax
blood.
from Guardians of the Galaxy. Nothing would fly over my head because I would catch it.
Because I'm so quick. I have reflexes.
Yeah.
I love it.
I get that. Like, you know, books are there to make us feel a lot of different things or to give us an escape from feeling things. And I think that's a big part of getting into a good reading, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a flow?
Yeah, good reading flow is knowing what it is you need right now. If you need escapism because things are too much right now, like if you're going through a lot of stuff right now, maybe don't read something that's going to be really heavy, like Incidents Around the House.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Then escapism's the time. And then there are other times when, you know, we want to be challenged a little bit. We want to feel things. And sometimes, you know, even just feeling good things. Like, you know, Project Hail Mary, I think if you're having a downtime, that one can lift you up.
Absolutely.
And I like to feel scared, but not everybody likes that feeling.
Another book that we read this year that also gave me a lot of feelings in the way that this book did was the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
Yes, that one was not a 2024 release, but we read it this year because we love Grady Hendrix here.
Yeah.
We do. I'm kind of not sure about his book I'm reading right now, which is a short story collection, but we love him. I already have his Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I have it pre-ordered, signed, and in hardback from Barnes & Noble. So excited. He does this every year. He did this last year, and I regretted I didn't get the signed pre-order, but I did this year. So, yeah, let's talk about this one.
Yeah, so you know, it's the 90s. It's a bunch of Southern moms, and that was rude.
How many books did you read this year,
Yeah.
Dusty? How many books did you read this year?
Put the number up. You're the best reader. You're God's favorite.
Oh my gosh, thank you. No, Pipkin's God's favorite.
Pipkin is, but you
That's
can be for this.
Halloween Tree,
these
if you ever
purposes.
wonder why we keep quoting that. See,
That's
that
all
was
I
a good
took-
book because it stuck with us.
It did, because it was ridiculous. No, it
was
wasn't
so
good book,
funny.
though. So Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, there's these moms in the 90s. They're in the South. Our main character, she has her husband and her kids, and his mom lives with them. Oh, the puppy. I was like, what are we doing?
Oh, I'm not grabbing your... Do you think I was going to grab your butt?
No, I thought you were like
You
trying
thought I
to
was
like
gonna goose
signal to me something.
Signal to your butt?
Maybe. I don't know.
No, I was trying my dog signaling.
And this stranger rolls into town and he charms everybody, but at the same time, like, all these kids are turning up missing, and yeah, it's heavy. There's a lot of like, nobody believes her that this guy might be dangerous.
Yeah, like gaslighting, there's
Yeah.
grooming, there's
Yeah.
you know, just a lot of things. A lot of, like, the things that poison a small town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where things look nice on the surface, but, you know, in reality, in a lot of suburban towns, there are children who are being abused.
Yeah.
And there are, you know, wives who are being abused or silenced. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is in this book. I was not prepared.
I was not
'Cause,
either.
I mean, I had read My Best Friend's Exorcism, but this is so much heavier than that. And I've read Horror Store, which I think is his lightest book. But this is heavy. This is really heavy. I think it's his... this and How to Sell a Haunted House are his scariest books. But this one's really heavy. And at first I wasn't sure what I felt about it, but we talked about it more and more. And I've come around to really liking it. It's not my favorite of his books, but it is definitely up there. I like it more than... The Final Girl Support Group was the only one that was like, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this book, like, really stuck with me. Like, for months afterwards, I was, like, seeing predators around every corner. I was like, we have to put a stop to it.
I mean, it's the kind of book that makes you look at things in your real world differently. Like, when a charming stranger on your street comes up, you know, like, you makes you... And I don't know if that's good, because I like to trust people, but it does make you think, you know, like, especially, like, you know... in the 90s and especially before that,
Yeah.
a lot of people would just trust their neighbors, especially in this town, because it's a very small southern town. You know, this guy, he's a man, and so his word instantly equates to a lot more than these housewives, because they're just housewives. What do they know?
Yeah.
And nobody listens to them.
And this guy gets their husbands, like, to be successful. Like, he does helping their family.
Yeah, it's very like Faustian. You know, it has that kind of needful things element to it. Like, he basically is bettering their lives through the husbands, but the wives know what evil he's really doing, and so it's like, at what cost?
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, that was also really interesting about this is the people that he's preying on are from this smaller, low income neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so
Like, people of color.
yeah, they're people of color. There's, like, you know, gang violence there. The people are poor. And so, like, a lot of the people in this town are like, well, we don't care. It doesn't affect us.
Yeah.
They, like, are willing to look past it because it doesn't affect them and they're benefiting.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of places like that where, you know, the rich benefit from, you know, the suffering of the poor and stuff. And that's what's happening in this town. And so the housewives in this, you know, like, they don't even really see, like, the income difference. They're just like, those are kids.
Yeah.
And we're moms.
But not every mom feels that way. There are some
Exactly.
moms who turn a blind eye and they're like, it doesn't matter. My family needs this. Like, you mind your own business.
They're also, like, you know, like, there's Southern, so there's a lot of, like, church lady types and stuff in here. But, yeah, people of color can't catch a break. But there are, I do think, and I saw some people, you know, just to give you kind of a trigger warning, some people did read this book as kind of racist. It is set in the South in the 90s. So a lot of people have hired help, and you will notice a lot of them are people of color. I have not lived in the South. I mean, I lived in the 90s, but I wasn't in the South, so I can't really speak on that as to it being accurate or not. But I do think that the people of color characters were treated with respect, and they were given, like, they were fully developed.
Yes, they were.
And they were characters that you cared about and you didn't want anything bad to happen to them. You know, there's also like an elderly woman in this. There's like a lot of different characters, and I feel like they were all treated with respect. And yeah, and they, you know, they go to that neighborhood at one point, and at first the people in that neighborhood are like, what the hell are you doing here? Because they want to know what's happening to the kids. They know somebody's doing it. It's not somebody from their neighborhood, so they're very mistrustful. But then these characters, you know,
yeah, they're like, we're here, we're trying to help, like, let us come in and
so nobody
stand
in this
down.
neighborhood, like, you know, does anything like, you know, bad or anything.
No.
They're not vilified at all.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. Whew, man.
The villain is the main guy, who's basically just like, he is the devil. And I'm very curious to see this one. It's going to be an HBO show.
Oh, is it?
HBO does a great job with their shows, like, you know, Last of Us and some other ones. So I think this could be really cool. I also, like, I really loved the characters. But there's just trigger warnings, like we mentioned, you know, it's set in the 90s in the South. So just remember that just because a character might be closed-minded or bigoted doesn't mean the author is. Like people say that about Stephen King a lot, and I've never read Stephen King's work as being bigoted, or sexist or whatever. You know, people also said this book was sexist, and I think the female characters are really, really good. But I think it is good that we talk about sexism, we talk about racism, and I think this book is starting those kind of conversations, or at least it's joining those conversations.
You can have the themes in the book and not be like the theme.
I honestly would be more offended because I was in the 90s and there was a lot of sexism. I can speak on that. For it to tell me a mistruth and be like, no, women were treated completely equally. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's, you know, the author is speaking from like what the South was like, and I know that he was raised by a lot of really strong women, and we have a lot of very strong female characters in this. But yeah, the other thing I would say, big trigger warning, is there's a lot of essay in this.
Yeah.
Pretty intense, and some of it's towards children. It's a vampire book, but the way he feeds on them is really, really, really upsetting. If that is going to trigger you, do not read this book. It's just not worth it if it's going to mess you up.
Yeah. Don't do it.
I think that's part of why, for me, at first, I was like not ready for this, because I thought with the title and everything, this was just going to be a lighthearted. You know, if you want that, read Bless Your Heart. I read that book.
There you go.
It has great Southern female characters in that too, and it's also set in the 90s. Doesn't have a book club, but it does have a bunch of women who run a funeral home. So if you want something a little bit lighter with not those heavy social themes and, you know, the essay and stuff, read Bless Your Heart.
Yeah.
So that was also really good. In fact, Bless Your Heart.
Bless Your Heart.
By Lindy Ryan. She added me on Goodreads, so I feel like we're best friends now.
You're famous.
I mean, I'm pretty much Lindy Ryan's best friend, and
yeah,
she's probably watching this right now.
Hey.
Sup? Loved your book. It was really good.
I haven't read it yet, but I will, I promise.
It was fun. It was a good time.
It's a short one. It's pretty
short.
It
was a short one. And there's going to be a second one next year. So, what other books we don't need to talk about every single one, but
we read the new one. Remember that one?
That was one of the first ones we read.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
That was an interesting one. You know, like science fiction-y horror.
The Bad Ones. I liked that one.
I read the Bad Ones back to back with The Haunting of Elkwood, and they do kind of blend together a bit.
They do, absolutely.
Because they're both very much about friendship, but I thought one of the best, like, LGBTQ reads I read of the year was The Haunting of Elkwood. Absolutely. That one also had a lot of flashbacks to the 90s, and it's about these two friends who grew up on a street, and the street just vanished. Yeah. Like, you can't get to it anymore. It's, like, kind of behind, like, I think WandaVision.
Or like Under the Dome.
Under the Dome. There's no accessing it anymore. People have studied it, and there's only 3 people who are from there. There were teenagers at the time who are still alive, and one of the women, they coerce her into going back to the street, even though, like, when people, only the people who are from there can go onto the street, period, and time doesn't work right. So they'll disappear, and they might come back months later or hours later. You don't know.
Or immediately.
And the only reason she goes is because she can see her little sister in one of the photos that they took. And then they go there, and it's like this town, the street's like on a loop, but it's really, really good about like kind of facing like your past demons, like friendship, LGBTQ relationships. I loved the two, best friends in this. It was really, really good and creepy and very original.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good one. I like the way that this book portrayed the 90s.
Yes.
More than most other books, like, it felt authentic. Like, and one of the characters has a daybed. And I specifically remember my sister getting a daybed in, like, 1994.
I remember I wanted one.
Oh, my gosh. And it was white with these, like, brass fixtures. And she had this floral bedding. It was the most old woman thing you've ever seen in your life.
They were so into the cranberries.
Yes. Oh, the cranberries. And there was like an Avon reference in there.
Bless Your Heart also did a good job too. I think when they kind of cram it down your throat and it's a little forced, they're not good. But Bless Your Heart felt really authentic. Like just mentions of like Claire's and there's a goth kid in there who's super cringe. And I was a goth kid and I'm like, yeah, but relatable. What's a daybed? Fighter of the night bed.
A daybed is like it is laid out kind of like a couch, but it's a bed. So it's a bed with 3 sides. So it has a head, a foot, and one of the sides has like a board on it.
It's like a bed / couch, but it's not a futon. My bed was a bunk bed. The bottom part was a futon. It was super rad.
My sister also had like a trundle under her daybed.
Why was your sister so spoiled?
Beats me. I don't know. But anyways, that's a daybed.
Daybed.
Wow. So beautiful. Yeah. Anyways, I didn't know that you were on my thing. I was like, oh, you read The Hobbit too.
I would also say another great 90s nostalgia book. I didn't read it this last year. I read it the year before, but I really love the book Head Like a Hole. Great body horror. Great if you like The Thing. And it's set in the 90s and it was amazing. So we talked about a lot of you want to talk about The Hobbit? You read The Hobbit. I didn't read The Hobbit.
I do.
And then Halloween Tree.
I do want to talk about The Hobbit only because it's an obsession. But also there was a part in it that I can't remember. It was towards the end and Gandalf says something really wise to Bilbo about like the only way to get through a problem is to go through the problem. Like you can't go back, you can't go around. Like you have to go through it.
You have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it. And it's the way that he said it was really, really cool. And I wish I could find the quote. I've been spending like the last 3 months looking for it. So if anybody can help me with that.
Look it up on a Kindle digital copy.
I've Googled. I have Googled like crazy and I cannot find it.
I think it's time to reread it. I mean, I want to read those books. So maybe
The Hobbit is easy. I would at some point love to finish the
Wow, you're spreading rumors about The Hobbit. For a good time, call The Hobbit.
Bilbo. No, I am a Lord of the Rings fanatic. It's all Lord of the Rings all the time, but I have never finished the trilogy. I got halfway through the 2 towers. It is boring as hell. Those trees talk so slow. But I will, and I'm in a place now where I think I can finish it. So I'll get through it. Maybe this next year.
I want to listen to the audiobooks because Andy Serkis reads
I have them.
I know.
We should do it.
Yeah. We should go on an epic road trip. We should go to New Zealand. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We can't drive to New Zealand.
I mean, have we tried?
No.
Exactly.
Good point.
Exactly. Thank you, Kayla.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go through my year. Yeah. So one of the things, I've been rereading all of the Buffyverse comics in chronological order because I got very interested in the new Boom series, and then I also wanted to read The Vampire Slayer, where it's Willow Rosenberg who's the Slayer. There's a lot of new ones, and I was like, and I also never finished, like, season 11 of the Buffy ones. So I started back from the very, 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 very beginning of them this year. Oh my gosh, all my books.
Oh my gosh.
So I read like all the original Dark Horse ones and just in chronological order, like the ones where Buffy's in high school. I read all the Angel ones, all the Spike ones. Some of the ones that I hadn't read before. But I did that. I got really tired of the IDW ones. I don't like the way they write Spike. That was annoying. But now I'm up to Frey's still good. That's good, the Future Slayer, the Spike ones. And now I'm reading the Tales of the Slayers books, and then I'll go back into season 8.
Turn that up just a little bit.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's because I'm so hot.
So hot.
so hot. I also, because I'm gearing up to start my own Buffy rewatch series, that'll be like a video form on YouTube and then also a podcast called Must Be Tuesday. I'm going to make that soon. So I've just been trying to read all the Buffy academic books I can and just all the fun ones too. So I have like the Bite Me book I got for Christmas. And I've read a lot of like, trying to find an example, some of the Buffy Academia. Like Fighting the Forces is just a series of essays and journals on Buffy. Buffy has a website called Slayage where it's academic journals, and so a lot of them have been collected into various different books, and Fighting the Forces is one of them. Some of these are really, really dense. Some of them aren't as dense as other ones, like 7 Seasons of Buffy was pretty easy to read. And obviously like Slayer stuff. The aesthetics of culture in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was hard, but it was really enlightening. So
I thought that was interesting.
Love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I definitely think taking a trip down the academic world of Buffy is a good way. So I've just been reading a lot of stuff.
Jason Rekulak, I didn't know that.
I know he wrote the kids version of Buffy.
So cute,
which is kind of adorable.
Yeah.
That's my favorite book of his. I summed up a big part of it right there. What else? I read a lot of books about writing because I'm writing my first novel and I'm gonna finish it this year. I know I said I'd do it last year, but I did move last year, and if anyone knows, I mean, they say moving, divorce, all those, loss of a loved one are some of the hardest things. Moving is hard. It shakes up your life.
Moving is the worst.
So yeah, I did not finish my book last year, but I'm gonna this year. The first draft is done. I'm in the middle of my second draft. So anyway, I read a lot of books on writing. You want more on that, DM me. I don't know if you guys are interested in that. If you want to hear about but I do love the Save the Cat book. I love Take Off Your Pants by Libby Hawker. What else? Keelan Patrick Burke. I believe he's Irish. He writes some really good scary stories. I reread Sour Candy, which is a short story of his, one of the creepiest kid horror novels I've read. And a lot of his stuff you can read on Kindle Unlimited, but he is really, really good. I'm trying to remember like what mainstream. I feel like he's done something big that a lot of people have read. He's written a lot of cool stuff. I also read Dead Leaves this year and Blanky. Blanky I didn't like that much, but Dead Leaves was a collection of Halloween stories. You know what? He's just written some stuff, and it's cool.
Yeah, get on board already.
I remember how I found him. There's a short film online called Peekers. And this old guy goes to his neighbor's house, and he's basically like, my wife is not my wife. And then they go in there, and she's just peeking out from behind the wall. And it's really, really disturbing. It's a short story, but the short film on YouTube is what made me find him. Anyway, he is really, really creative, and he writes a lot of creepy stuff. And Sour Candy, again, in the same way that We Used to Live Here scared me because it messes with your reality. That's what happens to this guy. He meets his kid, and then his whole reality is different. Like, his girlfriend doesn't know him. Nobody, like, a lot of people who should know him don't. Now everyone tells him he's always had this kid, and he's like, I don't. Like, he remembers everything the way he does, and that scares the shit out of me, guys.
Yikes.
What else? I'm going to go back to the beginning. I feel like I'm probably giving them, like, motion sickness from the scrolling. I'm just going to go to the beginning. And then we're just going to briefly talk about it. We're not talking about all 110 books.
That was at the end of the week.
We read Hidden Pictures.
We read that at the end of last year. That was the last book we read.
Well, I finished it at the beginning of this year.
Well, cool. That was a good book. I liked that book. I know you didn't love it, but
I didn't hate it.
I enjoyed it.
I would give it like a 2-star. It's fine. I didn't hate it. I don't think it was badly written.
Like a 3.5.
He has a new book called The Last One at the Wedding. I'd be willing to give it a shot. I think the writing was good.
They're easy to read.
What else? I finally read Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is a great YA mystery novel. I read that with my son. We had a really good time with it. Did not like Your Shadow Half Remains. I'm not going to talk on it because I don't want to dunk on it, but I didn't like it. It was like, when you get Bird Box from Wish.com, I'm already being too mean. Let's move on.
Oh, but you should know that the incidents around the house was written by the same guy who wrote
Josh
Bird Box.
Malerman! So read that instead. Yes. I also saw, I think it was Heather. I don't know. There's a few people I follow. there's a sequel to Bird Box. I like
Ooh.
Bird Box. I just didn't like Your Shadow Half Remains. For me, if you ever see me give a 1-star review, for me, I reserve that for not only was I not into the story, because I think, we all have different tastes. I may not be into something that you like, but 1 star for me means I also thought it was badly written. So I reserve those for books like... I'm like, how the fuck did this get published? And unfortunately, that was one of those books where I'm just like, but you might like it.
You might like it.
What do I? Yeah, see, Heather didn't like it either. And
Yeah.
Heather knows what's up. She read 200 books, like more than that.
She knows what's going on. She's a pro.
Yeah. So,
Girl.
like, you can disagree with me, but would you disagree with Heather? I don't
Never.
think you would. I don't think you would.
I never would.
'Cause you know
I
what's up.
never.
You know what's up.
Yeah.
All right. I read Connie OS Reanimated. Don't read that.
Don't read.
It was one of those things. I was reading a lot of H.P. Lovecraft because I did read the thing on the doorstep, which
Okay.
was good.
Go up. This one. Is this like the movie?
Yeah, dude.
I liked the movie.
You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, I do.
All right, I'm going to briefly. I'm doing like a quick rapid fire thing, dude.
Sorry. I just want to know.
Cricket Mark.
No, not
sounded
that
better.
one. This one.
I know. I just want to mention
okay.
it. It sounded better than it was, but basically, this guy, he has to like. You know what? I don't remember all the details about it. Yeah, so he's like working for the devil, and basically if somebody dies in a near-death experience type way, they're supposed to be dead. And his job before he's free is he has to basically collect these souls. And of course the girl he's supposed to collect he falls in love with. It was fine. It was okay. It could have been better. Could have been better.
Could have been better.
Alright, so The Watchers, unpopular opinion, I thought the movie was kind of meh. It was okay. I thought it was kind of boring. I didn't think the book was super well written because we only have 4 characters and they're not really explored at all.
Yeah.
They are better explored in the book than in the movie, but when you have such a small cast of characters, I really think you need to dig in. There's some twists in it that I thought I saw coming quite a ways from. The biggest, I think, intrigue of the book is what the Watchers are. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it buggers it up like The Lost did with the end of their show.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like it just wasn't as exciting as it could have been.
I don't know. That kind of thing scares me. Like, there was that movie, I literally think it's just called The Changeling. It's like they're set in Ireland or Scotland, right?
The Harvest or...
I don't know. It's about changelings, but I find that kind of thing creepy. I thought The Watchers was creepy.
The book is creepier than the movie. I will say that. So if you've seen the movie, it
Yeah.
ends with kind of like a whole, like, there's fairies.
Yeah.
And the movie ended a little more, like, another book I did like, had like a whole, where, I'm assuming you guys are at least a little familiar with this, so I'm going to give you a minor spoiler. But it does end with, she sees what the Watchers are. The Watchers are all in her town and they're watching her.
Oh, okay.
So it
So
sets
it's
up.
not as,
There's
like, isolated.
There's a
as-
sequel that just came out.
Okay.
I want to read
Maybe I'll
that.
read it.
What else? A lot of this I'm just not going to talk about. Cabbage was a really good short story I got from NetGalley. It was really, really good. This older couple, they have a cabbage patch and they bleed in it, and at first little things they wanted, like there's a special stew the wife had when she was younger and she wanted it, and it perfectly makes it. It makes them a horse, but all these things are made out of cabbage, and ultimately the child they lost when they were younger, it makes that out of cabbage. So it's kind of like a twisted version of, like, Pet Sematary or something, but it was beautifully written and really, really sad, but good. Short story. We didn't talk about The Bad Ones much.
Yeah, because I don't remember a lot about it.
The
That
Bad
was the one
Ones
with the
was-
girl and her friend went missing, right?
They had this legend of this, like, goddess.
Right.
in their
Goddess,
town.
count to 5.
And a lot of people have gone missing, including this girl's best friend. And then she teams up with this guy to find her. And it ends up actually being a pretty intriguing mystery.
Actually, really, I think I liked that book. I thought it was very sweet and very poetically written, if I remember.
It had a really good
Right.
friendship story
Yeah.
in it. It was a lot like Haunting of Elkwood. So I would say if you've read one or the other, read them both because they're both very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I agree. Is that it? I don't know what that dance is.
I'm trying to do the Cabbage Patch.
Oh, I don't.
I'm not talented at things, Kayla.
Yes, you are.
Oh my god, you beat me all the time.
Don't talk about my friend like that. I will beat you up.
Youth Juice, I got that from NetGalley. It was just like a cream. Makes you younger, but it's evil. You know, because it's made out of young models.
Ew, gross.
It's okay.
Gross.
That was awful. It's probably the worst written book I've ever read, The Mastering Art of Witchcraft. Ghost Station was pretty good. I also got that from Net. I got a lot of books from NetGalley this year. Ghost Station was, they basically go for like, to investigate the ship that's like crashed or whatever. And there's a kind of space sickness people get where they kind of go crazy and they will like attack people. And so they send the psychologist there.
The dogs do not like it.
Would you get us beverages?
Sure, we want.
Sparkling apple cider?
I think we're out.
Oh,
I think
whatever
that
is
was all
there.
of it.
I think there's another bottle of it.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
Thanks.
He looks so cute.
He does
He's
look
an
so
asshat,
cute.
though. He's saying he's a donkey.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, they take the psychologist with them, and you really don't know, like, is something going on with, like, alien life forms? Is there a serial killer on board? Or, you know, does somebody have, like, the space sickness? Does she have the space sickness, and is she just imagining what she's seeing? So, it was pretty good. I'm not super into that kind of thing, but I think if you like Alien or a lot of, like, space-type stuff that's creepy, you know, it has that element of kind of a, you know, almost like a haunted house in space type thing.
Ooh.
I loved First Light. I know you weren't really into it, but this was the sequel to Night's Edge.
I think that was when I was like failing that class.
I'm going to get a thing off your
Okay.
face.
Do it.
All right, I did it.
Okay, thank you. Because I liked the first one, and I wanted to get into this one, but I think I had a lot going on with school at that time.
If you like Night's Edge, you should read it.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of story, and I wasn't sure if it would live up to the first one, but I loved it just as much. The characters are just so good, and if you haven't read Night's Edge, absolutely do that. That's going to be a Peacock series, but that's essentially about, it goes back in time. It volleys between two time periods. One when this little girl is like 10, and her mother is bitten. And it's vampirism, but it has different kinds of rules. Like, it's not holy water and stuff like rust hurts them. But, you know, essentially they do need to drink blood. But her mother is bitten by a guy that she's seeing and becomes a vampire and needs to feed.
Thank you.
And so she feeds her mother blood, like a little bit every day just to keep her mother alive. And if you get caught, you get sent to like one of these kind of centers, like health centers, but you don't get to leave again. So they're very trying to keep everything on the down low so that her mother doesn't get caught and taken away from her. And then you also have it in modern day where her mom can't even keep track of how old she is. She's like 22, and her mom still treats her like she's 16 because for her mom, time moves differently because they don't really age or anything. And it's just, their relationship has gotten super toxic. Her mother doesn't let her have friends, doesn't let her have anything. She's just basically this thing to like feed her. And on top of that, she's talking to the guy who bit her. Meanwhile, this young woman is kind of experiencing first love. She meets this girl at a bookstore who, you know, she's really into. But I love that the book, it's so fair to all the characters. Like, even though you're supposed to be mad at the mom, like, it does a good job of making her a real person that you feel sorry for. And even this girl, like, I kept thinking, like, I was happy for her meeting this girl. I'm like, oh, honey, this is your first romance. Like, take
Take a slow
down. I was worried for her as, like, a mom. And yet, the book, I felt like, understood things. Like, it was good at communicating things that even the character didn't know. It was beautifully written.
I agree with that 100%. It was very well written. And I wanted to finish First Light, Life Circumstances. What are you gonna do?
This one continues off of the first one, and we get to see what those kind of health centers are like.
Yeah.
And we get to find out more about what's going on with the guy who bit her mom. So, a lot more...
Devin? Is that his name?
Devin. A lot more world exploration. Would you like a coaster?
I would love a coaster.
I feel like an ass. I feel like I'm the girl in Megan.
I haven't seen that.
Coaster. But no, I just really like my Chucky coaster.
That's fine. He's cute. He's cute in a fucked up kind of way.
The Substance was a great movie.
I haven't seen that
What
one
if there's a vampire who could only drink AB plus and was allergic to any type of blood? I don't know. I mean, a lot of good stories happen with just someone saying what if. So maybe you should write it.
Maybe you write that fanfic on something.
I read Succubus. That was pretty good. It was like about a metal band. It had lots of good gore references and stuff in it. I didn't like Cuckoo. I read Bad Astronauts. It was one of Grady Hendrix's first stories. I do recommend that. It's not horror or anything like that. It's basically there's a guy who is stuck in orbit and they can't get him down. And they're not going to get him down. He's just going to die up there. And he's from this small southern town. And this rednecky guy who lives out in the middle of nowhere and is really curmudgeonly and grumpy, he's like, you know what? We're going to build a spaceship and we're going to get up there. All I need to do is get into a little bit of, or like not even fully into space. So he thinks if they pull together enough people who are really smart, they could build a rocket that would get up there just enough that they can rescue him and bring him home.
Oh, wow.
But even though he doesn't know anything, he pulls together like all the smartest people he knows and they're going to get this guy. So, but it's just cool. Like, it's interesting because like it makes you wonder, like we just assumed that like rocket ships and something are not something that we could build. But, you know, people build their own cars and vehicles all the time. And that's what they do to try and save one of their own. So
that's fun.
I'm not telling you, Farpoint. I don't trick me into spoiling stuff. Bury Your Gaze was really, really good. So Chuck Tingle is 2 for 2 now. I read Camp Damascus last year and I really liked that. Bury Your Gaze is about a screenwriter. And he starts seeing his own characters stalking him. So he has... there's a fictional version of the X-Files in this, and that's kind of what inspires him to be a writer. But he writes a thriller series that has 2 lesbian women, and that's kind of how it starts. Is they basically say that you need to kill off one of them. He's like, I'm not going to do that. Because in this universe, there was the X-Files, basically. It's not called the X-Files. But it was 2 guys, and they kind of queer-baited it, and then the end of it, they ended up with, like... He ended up, like, dating his secretary or something, and he just felt, like, crushed. So now he's an adult, he's a screenwriter, and he's writing this series, but he does have a lot of things that were inspired by things he grew up in. Like, he has kind of like his own smoky man, and then the guy asks him for a cigarette, and that usually means that you're targeted. But he has a lot of other really scary characters that are very much like out of X-Files. And he sees them everywhere, and they're also like targeting like his friends and stuff too. And he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And he thinks it's all tied to, one, his job, where they have pretty much told him, you need to kill off this character or you're losing your job. Plus, he did a short film, and he's getting nominated for an Oscar. It was like a short film, so he feels like he doesn't even really deserve it because it was for the short film category. So he has a lot of things going on in his life. But really, it's when I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I feel like it did a really good job. And it also just... It was just really interesting, and it was nice to see a book kind of set in LA. I have a cousin who's a screenwriter, and so it seemed like a lot of the stuff that he tells me with like dealing with like Hollywood douchey types and stuff like that. So
cool.
It was really good. Like, this guy is basically trying to stand by his beliefs and stuff in a system that's very much just about making money, but still trying to be an artist.
Fun.
I read I was a teenage slasher. I love Stephen Graham Jones as a person. Like, I just think he seems like a super rad dude. And he has the greatest concepts. For some reason, his writing style and I don't always jive. And I have a hard time getting through his books. This one is supposed to read like someone's writing it on receipt ticker paper. So that is why it's missing a lot of grammar and stuff, which is really hard. I had a little bit of a hard time reading this, but the concept and the story are really good. Like, I really want this adapted into a movie. It's basically like, you know how when someone gets bitten by a werewolf, they become a werewolf? This is like, what if you were attacked by a slasher, and it was like a creature, and then you become one. And this guy doesn't know anything about this stuff, but his friend's a super big horror dork. And so she tests him on things. Like, she will try to get away from him, and he catches up right like that. And especially if he's at all like a pebble in his shoe or something, he's even faster. And he's like, how do you know this? And she just knows. She knows about Final Girl. She knows all this stuff. And she's really sad because she knows what this means. If he really is a slasher, he will die. He will become this horrible, evil thing. He will hurt people. And she doesn't know what the right thing to do is. Does she kill her best friend? Does she have to? And, you know, she also knows who she thinks is the final girl. And so she thinks that she might need to help her take out her friend, but she doesn't want to because it's her best friend. So it was a really interesting take on the whole slasher thing. I read so many books.
Yeah, you really did. Gosh.
I would recommend Board Gay Werewolf as just a fun LGBT kind of thing. It's almost a little like Buffy-ish in places, but this guy is working at a bar, and he was in college, but he had to drop out because he got bitten by a werewolf while jogging. and he's really kind of cut himself off from people. And then he meets another guy who's a werewolf, who kind of takes him into this like man bro pack thing, and they do all this manly man stuff. And it's kind of one of those ones where you kind of realize who your real pack is, your real family is, and so it had a lot of heart to it, and it was funny.
Sweet.
Dun, 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 dun. I read the Buffy novelization. It was good.
Was it good?
It's Christy Swanson does the audiobook.
Oh,
if you can find it.
fun.
I couldn't find it, but I did see that she does it. I did like Stephen Graham Jones' After All the People Lights Go Off. It's a collection of short stories. It was really good.
Nice.
All right, we're going to
Buffy,
skim through
Buffy,
all
Buffy,
these
Buffy,
Buffy.
Buffy.
I did read You Like It Darker, which was the Goodreads best of the year. I honestly, this is why I try to read a lot of the new release books. Because I feel like a lot of times Stephen King wins because a lot of people haven't read all the books. And they're like, well, I like Stephen King. Or maybe that was the only one they read.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times he gets it on name. Though this is a great collection of stories. A couple of them are pretty long. There's a sequel to Cujo in it, which is nothing like Cujo. But it's a continuation of the characters. I think it's called Rattlesnakes. But, and I'm really glad he's got a new book coming out. Because he had this whole, like, afterward that almost felt like kind of a goodbye. And I was like, oh, no, please live forever. 'Cause
Right?
I love you.
He has a lot of time left.
But this one, it felt like the stories were, I mean, they were still scary and stuff, but it felt like they had a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they felt like they were probably very personal. And really good characters. Like,
Yeah.
one of the longest story in the book is this guy has a dream about where a girl is buried.
Ooh.
And he can't let it go, and he can't let it go. And then finally he goes to this place, and a girl actually is buried there. And he tries to anonymously call in the tip, and then they track him, and then they're badgering him about how he knows, and they really want to believe that he did it, and he didn't do it. And so this detective on his ass is just dogged in his pursuit, and so it's so stressful because we know he didn't do it, and it's a lot.
Ooh.
And I read The Last Unicorn. We talked about that. I really love Cutting Teeth by Chandler Baker. She also wrote a short story. I think I saw that Heather read it this year, called Big Bad, which is going to be a movie soon. That was a werewolf book. But Cutting Teeth was really, really good. Night Bitch I read Night Bitch this year too, which is just got a movie out. Night Bitch got a lot of attention for its, the way it explored.
Is that Chandler Baker too?
No, Night Bitch, it's up there. I'll find the
Oh, but
author.
I see what you're talking about, the themes.
They're very similar. So Night Bitch is about a woman who has a new toddler, and she believes she's turning into a dog at night. And Cutting Teeth is about a very prissy little private school for toddlers, preschool. And at the very beginning of it, you see that their teacher has been killed and had her, like, blood sucked or whatever. And the kids are getting this, like, virus that's making them want blood. And so the different moms are exploring it in different ways. And then there's also, like, I didn't realize it was going to have that much of a mystery thing to it, but there is a lot of mystery to it, like what's really going on. I thought it was going to be kind of cut and dry that the kids did it. It's not that cut and dry. It is really, really interesting. And I think if you like Night Bitch, or you're interested in the way that's exploring motherhood in a different manner, I think you really need to check out Cutting Teeth. I didn't like Mask of Flies. I did like The Lost Girls.
I started that one too, and I was really enjoying it, but I didn't finish it.
You want to talk about it?
I mean, I didn't get that far. This poor girl, she got turned in the 80s, and so she looks like she's 16 forever, and so she can only get a job at Taco Bell, but she still has her crimped hair.
Yeah, you're stuck with however you looked when you died. There's one girl who has a zit that's always there. I'm just like, that's awful.
Such a bummer.
The main girl mentioned she has a spot on her leg that she can't shave. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that sucks.
Such a bummer.
It's worse for other characters. There's one person who died by getting their throat ripped out, and it doesn't heal.
Yeah.
They're not anti vampires. But what I really liked this, I think if you're one of those people who got really tired of paranormal romance with vampires, this one is more of a realistic look at what being a teenager forever would actually be like, how hard it would be to get a job and take care of yourself. And what happens
and
is...
how long the love actually lasts.
Exactly. A lot of relationships kind of run their course, especially first loves. And so there's this guy, and he seduced our main character, and then after a couple decades, he left her, which is honestly a pretty long relationship. But these vampires are a little different in that they have to be within like so and so many miles of the person who made them. They're kind of cursed in that way. And so they can't like move on and live their lives. They always follow this guy wherever he goes. And so she meets his other two exes. There's one from like the 50s who's really, really sweet. And then there's one from like like early like times. Oh my gosh, they're so big. Oh my god, he's like the biggest dog. Oh my gosh. This hat Brostar. But yeah, they kind of team up together and they're like, hey, he's seducing some new high school girl. We need to put a stop to this. They also found out that it would take all of the people he's turned into vampires in order to kill him. So they do need her.
Do you want to? Just want belly rub.
So it's really interesting, a unique take on it that I thought was really refreshing. I loved the characters. It has a great LGBT romance. And so, yeah, if you're one of the many people who likes to shit on Twilight, I personally like Twilight, whatever. This might be more up your speed. Or if you like paranormal romance and you just want to try a different way of going about it. Like, I highly recommend it. I thought it was really, really good. What else? Just looking.
Head full of
Some of
ghosts.
these we talked about on book club.
Yeah.
Head Full of Ghost is an older. It's not that old, but we did read it. That was really good. That was a 5-star read for me. That one had fantastic characters, and it really. I feel like it explored that possession trope in a very unique way.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. The ending was shocking.
It was a gut punch.
We read a lot of like devastating.
Why do we do
books
this to ourselves?
year.
I like to tease my husband because he watches movies about female friendship, and I'm always like, one of them's going to get cancer and die at the end. Why are you doing this to yourself? And yet I read a lot of books that have like these gut punch endings, so I'm a hypocrite.
But it was good. It was a really well written book. Like Paul Tremblay, it's all from the perspective of this girl. How old is she? Like 10?
Like 7, I
7,
think?
10, something?
I don't know. I mean, because I'm getting it mixed up with Incidents
I
Around
know,
the
me
House. She was, I think, 7 or 8.
I think so too. I think this girl's a little bit older.
Maybe 10.
Because she's like reading these books and she should be like...
Yeah, get your turtle shell up, right, Farpoint?
Well...
Yes, Nightbig, it's still in theaters too.
But it is on Hulu.
But yeah, it's on Hulu.
Amazon?
I don't know.
It's on something.
It's on one of them. But it did just come out with Amy Adams.
Yeah, it looks good. But Head Full of Ghosts was really good.
I do know the Nightbig movie has a different ending than the book.
Ooh.
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I do know that.
Sorry.
Pick him up, Kayla.
I can't. He seemed uncomfortable.
You want this little dog?
They all just seem so uncomfortable on my lap. Okay, you come to me.
Is Danny watching? He should come get his dogs.
Danny, come get your dogs.
Danny, come get your dogs.
They're really unhappy.
They're really unhappy.
Nobody loves them.
I love them.
He's telling me you don't.
Brandon says Hulu. Isn't Amy Adams in her 50s? I think she's in her 40s. I mean, I don't know. Let's find out.
The cat says no dogs allowed.
Amy Adams is 50.
No.
I guess she is. She looks fantastic.
Come on, babies.
But anyway, her kid's like a toddler, and she is an older mother in the book.
I need all that cheesecake now.
So, don't you dare. Anyway, Head Full of Ghosts, Paul Tremblay, who also wrote Cabin at the End of the World, he's fantastic, and he's one of those authors where he beautifully writes children, where it just feels authentic, and he wonderfully writes female characters. Not everybody can do that. That's not a skill everyone can have, writing for the opposite gender, but
he does a really good job.
He writes little girls fantastically. He did in Cabin at the End of the World. He did in Head Full of Ghosts.
Yep. I have no qualms with how he writes a woman of any age. Do you want to talk some more about Dungeon Crawler Car?
I read all the Dungeon Crawler Car books. They're fantastic. Read them.
I'm just giving you shit.
I read Rest Stop, and yeah, now I'm sorry. That was a 1-star read for me. I thought it was horribly written. I cannot believe this guy has a lot of books. I know Brandon really liked Nestlings and Mary. So I kind of want you to read this one. It is a shorter book. It's 100 and something pages. So I want to know, is this an offshoot, like a book of his that's just not as good as the others, or is he just not for me? Which it could just be.
I thought
he's
Nestlings looked kind of good too, though.
I thought his other books looked good.
This one looked good when you were showing me.
I thought it did too, and I bought it, and then I was like, "This is awful.
Bummer.
This is truly awful." So I really need Brandon to read it and let me know what's up.
Brandon, read it.
I read The Eyes of the Best Part. I thought that was really overrated. It's kind of a female serial killer. I honestly think if you want a good book, kind of similar, what was the name of that one book we read last year?
Oh, the one about the Vietnamese girl?
Yes.
Shit, I don't remember.
So yeah, this girl is Korean. But yeah, I do think it did a good job with like her family and stuff, and I was really interested in that. You know, her mom, like the story of her mom is really sad. Like they were so poor.
She's a haunting.
She is a haunting was really good. Her parents were so poor that they had to leave their children alone during a horrible winter, and then they don't come back, and the kids are eating bark. They're dying. And finally, the older sibling says, we need to leave. We need to leave and go get food. And she refuses to go because she knows her parents are going to be back. And they leave her there, and she nearly dies. And it's kind of setting up like the kind of person she is, because in this story, her husband leaves her, and how much that messes with her. Eventually, her parents and her siblings did come back. But it's still a really sad story where she was alone and nearly died. But this girl's father has left their mom for another woman. And her mom's always eating fish, and she says the eyes are the best part. They bring you good luck. And at first she thinks it's really gross, but then she gets kind of interested in it. Then her mom starts dating this really gross guy. She basically, because she's so mad at their dad, she's going to be with a white guy now. And this guy, like he says he likes their culture and stuff, but he really fetishizes them. He's really gross to the teenage girls. Like he's gross, and he's upsetting, and it kind of pushes this girl a little too far, and she becomes a serial killer.
Ew.
I just don't think the story quite worked for me. I don't know. It was okay. I don't know why so many people like love it as much as they do. I didn't love it that much. I thought it was just fine. I gave it like 3 stars. But yeah, the guy is really creepy and stuff, but it does become a little just like every guy in this book is a creeper or a nice guy. Like every guy. So, and you know, maybe that's just her life, but the ending was really convoluted and stuff. For me, this one just didn't work. It might work for you. It worked for a lot of people. Sorceress Comes to Call. We talked about that in book club. It was great. Farpoint Station recommended Mountain Man. It was a good time.
That one actually sounded really good. I'm actually going to write that one on my...
Yeah, I hope... that one's on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. It was a good zombie one. We talk about it a lot in book club.
Man.
I think I might go back there because I need to know what happened. What was it, Scott? I need to know what happened with Scott. Because I'm shipping Gus and Scott till the end, guys. Scus! I love it so much. So, Farpoint said that the movie with Joe Manganiello is canceled. But I'm hoping they change their mind. I couldn't find anything about it being canceled. So I hope they change their mind. Scus?
Yeah.
It's Scus. But, yeah, I shipped it. I shipped it hard. I was talking about the eyes are the best part, but I'm all over the place, man. I'm a wild card.
She got 170 books this year. So,
Scott Farkas. I've met that guy. He follows me on Twitter. I'm kind of a big deal.
Who's Scott Farkas?
It's from Christmas Story.
Oh, the bully.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, gotcha.
I finished Against the Darkness. Heather also finished them. That's a fun Buffy offshoot where it's about Willow Rosenberg's daughter who is a witch and a slayer.
We read the first one in our first year of book club.
We did.
I remember.
I read Bride. It was really good until I learned what nodding is.
Stop it.
It was a naughty book.
Get out. You're fired. Fired.
I think the book was fine, but I do think it was falsely marketed as a paranormal romance. It's erotica. It is an erotica book. If I have to hear the details about the man's member, it's erotica. If there's nodding in it, it's erotica. Just Google it. I'm not telling you what it is.
Don't Google it.
Now we all know. I broke everybody during book
Yes,
club.
you did.
So I'm going to talk about one more book. The last one I read, well, one of the last ones I read of the year, not counting those 2 Buffy books, was Blood Like Mine. That was a really good book. I like a lot of like parent-child stories. And this one, it's a lot like Knife's Edge, but a little different. You have this mom, and she's driving in the snow, and she gets kind of she runs off the road because there's an elk. And then someone comes to help her, and she's like, no, go away. And then she's panicking, like, did they see us and stuff? And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And you find out that her daughter has this condition. She's not quite like a werewolf. It's similar though. But her daughter has this condition, and she's really she has to basically kill people to feed her daughter. And she tries to kill bad people. And what she does is she will basically lure out pedophiles online.
Okay.
And then she uses them to... So this... You also have this detective who's basically thinks it's a serial killer. Because we have a lot of these guys, same MO. They're all going after pedophiles. Mm-hmm. They all have their throats slit. They've all, like, been drained of blood. And so he's on her trail, and he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But it's not a typical werewolf story. Because her daughter... there's a danger that she can go fully feral. Her daughter, like, attracts stray dogs to her, and she really wants to kind of go run off with them. And the more she goes without blood, then she'll have blackout periods where she doesn't even remember what happened. And they've talked to other people who've had this happen to them, and they say, like, eventually, because it's been 12 years, eventually you can't stop it. Eventually they do fully become, like, these feral beasts, and they will not know you. They will attack you. And you either kill them or, just let them go. And the mom refuses to allow that to happen. And it's really sad because it kind of starts like in the 90s when she finds out she's pregnant. It starts with her doing journal, like letters to her daughter and stuff. And then it becomes more of these like journals where she's keeping track of what's changes have been with her daughter. And it's just really, really sad because she loves her daughter so much. And with her daughter always being basically the same age, I felt like you could relate to a lot of it, because like when your kids grow up, they change so much, and you'll never see that 4-year-old again or that 8-year-old, and in a way you kind of grieve them. You kind of like miss that little person, even though I know they're still there. Yeah, but they're that part of them, you don't get to see it anymore. And it almost felt like that, like, her daughter's always 12, and it's almost like metaphorically kind of like that fear of letting them go or moving on with their lives and stuff, or losing them.
That's really heavy.
Especially like when kids become teenagers and you kind of lose them too. Like, it's scary, like when they're hanging out with friends and stuff and you don't know, and they're in cars and stuff.
Packs of dogs.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was really deep and scary. Yeah. And Stuart Neville also, like, his two main characters in this are female. I think he did a fantastic job. I would like to read more books by him. And this was one of the nominees for the Goodreads of the best of the year. So
cool.
That's such a bummer. But, all right. So that was the end of the year. How many books are you going to read next year? No.
I think my goal is going to be 12.
12 books. Oh, one of the challenges is to read more books than you read last year. So you read 11?
Yeah. So I might make it.
So if you read 12 books, you need one book a month.
Yep.
You have to do that for book club anyway.
Exactly. That's why I picked
And book club, I mean, you would have done that this year, but book club, we kind of, again, because I freaking moved.
Yeah, you did. And I was really, really struggling in school spring quarter. Like, really struggling. I failed a class. Like, it was tough for me. So I had to put everything on pause. And I skipped a book accidentally. Yeah. Not this year. I got it now. I got
behind, too. Zygmunt's going to read 6.
That's a good goal.
I think that's good. Danny's going to read 4.
That's
He's probably going to make me read them to him. I'm sticking with 75. The reason I picked 75, I've talked about this before, but Stephen King says he tries to read 75 books a year. He's very big on being a great writer is being a great reader. Mm-hmm. And it used to be really hard for me to do 75. I've tried, if you look at my past challenges, there's a few years where I didn't quite get it. Yeah. I succeeded only one other time, and I did just barely over 75. This year, for some crazy reason, I did 110. I just want to try to do 75 again. It would be cool to read more, but I just want to try to do 75 again.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal. It's a really good goal.
Yes. Yeah. If it's good enough for Stephen King.
Good enough for you.
I'm updating that Doug quote.
There you go.
If it's good enough for Stephen King.
I freaking hate that quote.
But I made it better.
You did, yes. No, it's better. Oh my God, it drives me crazy.
Oh my gosh, look at Pipkin. He's the best boy and God's favorite. Here, if you turn this way. If you turn this way, then they can see Pipkin. Oh, there he is. Look, he's up in the corner. You see him?
He's out.
Yeah.
You say hello.
It is interesting because when he was over here, he would go over to the other side to look. Like, I feel like he is interested.
Do you like
I think so.
Do you want to be a YouTube star?
I also think it gets hot in here when we do it, and he's probably cooling off. But I don't know, he's a cutie pie. He is a Mexican red rump, and he has a bright red booty, and it's so cute.
So cute.
He is a cutie with a bright red booty. I raised him from a wee tiny speck. That's why I named him Pip. But now we call him Pipkin, and we make fun of him because of the Halloween tree.
Yeah. He likes it, though.
Do the dogs ever try to eat him? The dogs are not aware that he exists. So
those dogs care about one thing.
My dogs,
and it's belly rubs.
If my dogs could go door to door and ask you, have you heard the good word about Mama? They would. Mm-hmm. My dogs are a little obsessed with me right now. World. They're having a whole Mama moment.
Yeah. Mama and belly rubs.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has not given me enough belly rubs today.
They always said that. You know, my cat likes belly rubs too, which is kind of weird, but he really does. Like that you get in there.
I like it.
Ooh, Brandon wants a spider right now. My mom would not have. You know, my mom didn't really care for the spiders either. And my brother now has quite a few. So, you know, maybe she'll warm up to it.
Maybe she'll come around.
Maybe she'll come around.
Maybe make her read.
Buffy. I was wondering where did I get that weird around. Never mind. Anyway.
Make her read Project Hail Mary. He's kind of spider-like.
Mm-hmm.
Like a...
Honestly, tarantulas, there's different kinds, but New World tarantulas, which is what all three of my tarantulas are, they don't bite. They kick hairs. I mean, they can bite, but they really have no reason to because they can't feed off of humans. And defensively, they're going to kick these barbed hairs off of their butt. They cannot... No New World tarantula has ever killed a human. Ever. It's not even possible. They don't have enough venom. The only way would be the same way a cat would kill you if you got a bacterial infection. Mm-hmm. Old World tarantulas, there are some that can put you in the hospital. But again, if you care... I've never been bitten. I've never been bitten by my spiders, and I've changed their housing and stuff. They just go hide. And some of them, like Poe, are a little more friendly and can be held, and he's never kicked hairs or done anything. So you just do your research. There are a lot of very docile breeds, and if you want to work your way up to it, like I did, because I used to be very arachnophobic, I would recommend... Arabella. I would recommend starting with jumping spiders. My first one I just found in my house. This is Arabella. You can't see her very well. She's in here somewhere on the top. But,
right there?
Yeah, she's at the top here. But she's a wild jumping spider that I rescued from outside. My other ones, I bought them all. October and all them. Mm-hmm. But jumping spiders are very, very friendly and very curious. They watch you when you talk to them. They remember you. And yeah. I mean, they all have different personalities. My spider Peaches doesn't really like to be handled. But October is super friendly.
Yeah.
Lydia.
I have a healthy respect for a spider. I mean, I like them. I think they're cool, but I think I would be freaked out to hold one.
I feel like the tarantulas, it's kind of like having plants. I mostly am just proud. Like, I feed them. I watch them grow. I enjoy making a nice habitat for them. They're beautiful.
Don't kill spiders in my home.
Good.
I don't. I usually leave them be, especially if they're, like, in the shower. I'll try to, like, dry off a path for them so that they can get out.
That's what Itzy was.
Mm-hmm.
Saved her from the shower.
I also have one of those, like, grabber thingies because Doug doesn't like spiders, so sometimes he's like, that one has to go. So I grab my little grabber and I take him outside.
But, yeah, they're usually pretty shy and very reluctant to interact with you if they're wild. So... Spiders are great. I've gotten over my arachnophobia, and they're beautiful, and they really mean us no harm, and they do a lot of good for us by taking care of bugs that can harm us.
Like mosquitoes.
Yes.
Fuck mosquitoes.
So there's my whole rant about spiders.
Yeah.
All right.
Well.
Oh, no. Don't let her kill them.
Don't let her. They're good.
Show her pictures of jumping spiders with their very big eyes and stuff. A lot of people. I would also recommend mini Robo Muppets.
Ooh.
That's on TikTok. But check her out. She does these really cute shorts. A lot like Lucas the Spider.
Oh, I remember that. That was cute.
But these are actual real jumping spiders. She never does anything like have them jump at the camera or anything because she knows a lot of people are afraid. And her whole goal is to show you just how sweet and smart and adorable they are. And she does fun little sketches with them and stuff. So I would highly recommend that. Maybe you can warm her up to the idea.
I think that's a good idea.
Jeff does not kick hairs. He does judge us.
Rude.
Yeah. Zigma, my brother, has a much bigger... I only have 3 tarantulas. And then I have 4 jumping spiders, and a comb-footed spider. But Zygma has a lot of old world, new world. He has a scorpion, and Danny has a scorpion. Kayla looks like she wants to hold some spiders. She doesn't. And honestly, I don't like to hold mine either. I mostly, they don't. I think the jumping spiders either tolerate it or might like it, but the tarantulas absolutely do not like to be held. They will tolerate it, but they're not social creatures, so a lot of people just recommend not holding them. But maybe you can.
We were watching Home Alone, and you know how Kevin's brother has the tarantula, and it's on Joe Pesci's face, and Kevin picks it up, and I'm just like, I bet that tarantula is so upset right now.
I actually watched something on how they did that. The scream and everything had to be dubbed because they didn't want to scare the spider.
Oh, good. Okay.
It had to be done in a certain way.
That's good, because I was like, this is horrible.
But yeah, that's actually something.
Not Joe Pesci's face. Sorry, the other
guy. That's something I've been meaning to do on my channel, is do a video where I show Zygma, my brother, a lot of horror clips of tarantulas, particularly in movies. Because a lot of them, my favorite one's the Beyond, where they're ripping flesh out, their fangs can't do that. Their fangs are basically straws, and they turn their food into, milkshake. Yeah. They can't rip flesh. So, I don't know. There's a lot of ones like that I thought might be kind of fun for him to see. Fun. But they're mostly just big babies. They like to go hide. Even the big scary ones just like to go hide. Yeah. Poe, and different spiders have different personalities and stuff too. Poe is my grandma stole a pulchra, and they kind of call them the black labs of the tarantula world. He's really chill and really sweet.
Cute.
Anything you guys want to add before we call it a night? Anything you want to talk about your reading year or anything? What do you guys think about our goals?
Mm-hmm. Are they respectable enough?
Are they respectable enough?
75 and 12.
75. So how many is 75? I think.
I don't know. A month?
Yeah.
Oh, we're making us math now?
You're the accountant.
Yeah, but I use a calculator.
6.25.
Okay,
so
great.
I think that's respectable. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I remember I was working a little bit harder to get the 6 books in. And a couple times I'd go a little over and I'd be at 7 or 8. But I was keeping it pretty close. Yeah. Then I had a couple months where I actually fell back. And I got behind. And then towards the end of the year, I was reading about 9 to 10 books.
Yeah. You really picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm impressed. I know I read a lot of shorter books and stuff too, but those Dungeon Crawler Carl books, they're long, and I was reading those pretty quickly. Yeah. I was like, that's...
Well, when you're into some of those Harry Potter books were super long, and I read those in a couple days. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Infested was good. I also liked Sting, I think is what it was. How many hours do I read a day typically? It kind of varies. I will read anytime I'm in the car, but I don't have to leave my house for work. So my work, I work for Microsoft from home. So a lot of times I will listen to an audiobook during my shift, but not all the time. So sometimes I might listen to an audiobook for 8 hours in the day. I listen to an audiobook when I do my makeup or anything, or when I do my hair, I will read a book on my Kindle. I'm usually reading multiple books at a time. So if you look at my Goodreads and see that I'm reading a lot of different books, it's because I always have an audiobook, and I listen to audiobooks when I make dinner. I always have an audiobook. I always have a Kindle book that I will read when I go to the toilet, I do my hair, before bed, and then I usually have a book I'm reading to Danny. I have a lot of different
juggling
things, and I usually like to have some kind of a comic going on, and sometimes I like to mix it up with a little bit of nonfiction.
Yeah. So many things. You're such a multifaceted woman.
But I like to kind of keep it, because otherwise if they're too similar, then they kind of blend in my brain a bit. The good and bad ones. Those ones,
they were way too similar.
They were really similar.
They were both really good, and I wish we would have split them up a year apart.
Doesn't that make driving hard? You gotta listen to the audiobook, dude. Yeah. Yeah. So Brandon says, I didn't meet my goal last year, but I'm happy with the books I finished. I mean, a goal is just, it's your goal. You're setting it. So, I've had lots of ones where I didn't meet it, and then I did a shorter one the next year. But I think, I would say the trick for me this year is, because this is the year I've read the most, I did DNF one book where I'm like, why am I reading this? It's not for book club or anything, and I'm not having a good time reading it. Yeah. That's okay. you're not a failure if you decide not to read something. If it's going to put you in a reading slump, because a lot of times in the past for me, I tried reading a book I wasn't into. I really dreaded it. It made me not want to read. And then eventually I stopped and I got into a reading slump. Don't let that happen. Just DNF it. It's just fine.
Move along.
It's your time.
Yeah.
It's not for you. That's okay. It's okay if everybody loves the book and it's not for you.
Nobody's going to get mad. And if they do get mad, they have very small lives.
And read a variety of different books.
Yeah.
So, like, I like to mix it up with graphic novels. Graphic novels may not be your thing. I also like a lot of, like, nonfiction books about film and stuff and writing. But, books of different lengths, too. Like, if every book you're reading is 800 pages long, I think that's going to get really, really exhausting. So, there are a lot of great books that are, like, short stories. Ushers. I didn't talk about that one, but that's Joe Hill's short stories.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel good, too. Because, like, they did that whole spooky collection on Amazon.
Yes.
They had, like, 6 of them that were each about, like, I think 29 to 40
nice,
pages.
yeah.
They were really short. So you read them, you feel really good because you're meeting your goals. It's like 6 books right there. And they're only about, and they're really good quality stories and stuff too. So mix it, like if you're in a slump, read some of the shorter ones. Like no one's going to judge you and be like, oh, the book wasn't that long.
Well, and I tend to be more like I want to read those longer those epic fantasy novels, right? But I know I'm not going to be able to sit down and read it in a month with my own reading habits. So that, like Sword of Shannara, I've been reading all year long. I'm not even going to be done with it this year. I'll be done with it next year, maybe. And I have to be okay with that. I'm reading it. It's just going to take me a long time because I have to sprinkle other things in there. It gets kind of boring sometimes. And
that's why I say, like, DNF, for me, it's DNF for now. I'm just not in a place right now where I want to read that. Yeah. And I will come back to it later.
Yeah.
That's fine.
For me, it's like longer term reading goals. Like, in my lifetime, I will finish this book.
Yeah.
It is going to take me a while, but I'll get there.
And I guess the other thing is, like, if you're in a slump, find something that's really, like, the premise really excites you. Or that comes highly recommended and it sounds like your kind of book. Like, I'm trying to expand my horizons right now because I tend to be a horror girl. And I'm trying to read more science fiction and fantasy, and Kayla's helping me a lot. But some of it is hard for me because it's not genres I'm used to. And some of it, I was just like, really? I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then a lot of times so far, I've been pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't have read The Last Unicorn if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't have read Dungeon Crawler Carl or Project Hail Mary if it wasn't for Sigma. And I loved all those books. Yeah. So, but, like I said, if you're in a reading slump, that's not the time to be expanding your horizons. Just what's your comfort book? Or, you know what? Going back to an old favorite.
Absolutely. So that was how I started. When we started our book club, I decided to go back and reread Harry Potter. And I got through the first 2, and it kind of like kicked me back into gear. I still do want to go back and reread, starting with like 4, because 4 was my favorite, and it's been...
And mix it up too, like if last time you read the books and do the audiobook, but if it's something you love, you're still going to love it. And I think that, especially if it's a series, like there's 2 series that I really love that I want to reread this year. I want to reread the Queen Betsy series because it's been a while and I haven't read, she came out with a new book last year. So I really want to read the whole series, and then the Carpe Demon series, the Demon Hunting Soccer Mom series. But if you have a series like that you really, really love, then reread
it
them.
over, pick back up.
That's good. And even just like reading books that you loved from when you were a kid, like I think it's fun to pick up like the old Goosebumps and stuff. Or I love the Banicula books. Like that's just comfort food.
Pick up a Sweet Valley High.
Oh my goodness, those are just like crack cocaine.
Yeah, they really are.
Oh my gosh.
How are they going to get through these?
How? I remember how excited I would be if I saw a book like I knew it was a book. I'm like, I'm getting a freaking Babysitter Club book for Christmas.
Yeah.
No, I am living my best life right now.
There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. Okay, I will read to you. I add more children's stories in my... And that's the thing, too. Like, I haven't read all the books that were classics when I was a child.
Like, we read The Halloween Tree.
I never read The Halloween Tree.
Either.
And I'm really glad I did. So, going back and picking up some of those classics, they're short. So
I'd like to read the Wrinkle in Time series. A few years ago, I was going through another reading slump, and I read through most of the series of Unfortunate Events books.
I love those. I've read the whole series. They're all right there.
I got really depressed.
They're really
so I didn't finish it. But it's
they
good.
are a mystery. They are a very good mystery.
And the way that he writes, like, it's just so, like...
You just
I don't know.
need to accept
crazy.
that horrible things are going to happen to these kids for a really long time.
Does it end good?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then maybe I'll finish it.
I think what makes them fun to read is the kids really rely on their own talents and they really trust each other.
Yes.
And they are very, very close. In fact, Dusty Zigma named one of his spiders after Sunny, who bites things, his OBT, which are the orange bitey things. But yeah, they know Sunny can do that.
Yeah.
And they know Violet's really inventive. And so they know that they all have talents and they really trust each other and trust themselves.
Yeah, I really liked those books. They really got me through.
And you find some things later on that make it a little more uplifting. Things are not as bad as they seem in the beginning. Okay. There's a whole conspiracy.
Okay. I mean, I know there's a conspiracy. That's why I liked it. It goes all the way to the top.
A massive conspiracy. It was really good. I read this to my son.
I want to know it all.
A good time travel series. If anyone knows a good time travel series, leave it in the comments below or in the chat.
Have you read All You Zombies, the short story by Robert Heinlein?
I haven't read that. Is it a good time travel?
Yeah.
I mean, I've always wanted... I have,
It's short. It's really
I
short.
wanted to read some H.G. Wells. I mean, The Time Machine. That's a classic.
I read that in like 8th grade. I don't remember it.
One of the Queen Betsy books is time travel.
It has nothing to do with zombies. That's just the title of the story.
And of course, so this was a kind of a recap one. It's a little different than how we normally do it. We always do book club on some Thursdays. We don't really
Whenever
one. The next one's going to be on the 16th. Yes. But now we do 4 books. You do not have to read them all. So the reason we do 4 books is because I read a lot of books. And you guys pick one of them. So if you watch the show and you put it in the chat, but not a lot of people watch the show, it's a pretty good chance we'll pick your book.
Yes.
So we pick one book that you guys recommended to us. This month we are reading Grunts. That was recommended by Danny. Kayla picks one book, and that's the only book Kayla has to read because she's very busy. She's a student and an accountant. Like, her brain doesn't have... She reads as much as she can. She's got a lot more going on.
But I picked Starship Troopers this month. So
Kayla picks a book. She needs to read that book.
That's
and then her and I decide on the other 2 that she doesn't necessarily... I usually try to pick ones that she would like if she has time.
Yeah. But I really enjoy hearing you talk about them.
Yes. So I usually try to pick
And sometimes
one.
it gets me more into like, okay, I'll put that on my list. I'll read it one of these
And every so often it's one where I'm like, stop what you're doing, read this book. Like we did that with Incidents Around the House. I'm like, you need to read this.
Yes.
So then I picked 2. And lately I've just been trying to get a lot of the 2024 ones that everyone really enjoyed and recommended. So yeah, for this next one, it'll be Diavola, which was on a lot of Best of the Year books. It's a gothic, creepy ghost story.
Yeah.
And then Riley Sager's In the Middle of the Night, or Middle of the Night.
Yes, Middle of the Night.
Yes. It's like a thriller mystery. Riley Sager does just good twisty-turny mysteries. So I haven't actually started this yet. I'm almost done with Starship Troopers, and I'm pretty far in Grunts. Grunts is really long.
Grunts is really long. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it. It's cool. Like, I was reading the intro to it, and I was like, oh, this lady's a mega nerd. I love her. Like, she's really going for it. But it's tough. I just don't know if I'm going to.
I'm happy that we got so many female authors, because Diavola and Grunts were both female authors. And then, obviously, Starship Troopers is a classic. It looks like Farpoint's reading it with us. Farpoint, you are God's favorite now.
Yep. Pipkin who?
Not Pipkin who? It's Farpoint Station.
Farpoint Station.
By the way, Farpoint Station, you don't have to tell us, but if you would like to tell us your name so we don't call you Farpoint Station all the time, that'd be cool. I mean, if not, it's cool.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How far are you in Starship Troopers?
I'm about 75% in.
Okay, I'm about 25% in.
I'm doing the audiobook, which I mentioned at Farpoint is read by R.C. Bray, who did the audiobook for Mountain Man. He does a really good job.
Yeah.
I've been really liking that. And it's not a super long book either. So I'm reading that in Grunts. And then I'm also reading the latest Dungeon Crawler Carl book.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course you are.
But next month, I want to read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls.
Yes. When does that come out?
It comes out the 14th, I think.
Of January?
Next week.
Okay.
I really want... That's going to be one of my picks.
I'll get that one. Because I
And
have
then
an Audible credit.
I think we should maybe pick Mom's suggestion of Rubbernecker.
Okay. Yeah.
But we'll see what's in the chat. See what people... she has to watch it. So...
Yeah.
Adam! Farpoint Station's name's Adam! That is a great name.
That is a good name.
That is, like...
solid.
And it does seem like God's favorite boy would be named Adam.
Or God's least favorite boy. We don't know.
Anyway,
God loves you no matter what.
it's our favorite boy.
Our favorite boy. We are God.
Yeah.
I
You're
don't know.
this is so much trouble.
Am I?
I guess we're the gods of the Strange and Unusual Book Club.
Exactly.
We're
We
benevolent.
rule this world.
Um,
I don't know. Sorry.
Mommy is watching, so yes, if you're watching, and you mentioned Rubbernecker, that's one we've been thinking of.
Yes.
And then I really want to read Bunny. I know that didn't
Okay.
come out in 2024, but I really want to read it.
Yeah. We can read it.
I just know it's about like a sorority, and it gets kind of like Frankenstein.
Ooh.
So I started reading it, and it was really good. And then I had a table because I was like, I'm supposed to read other stuff.
Well, let's read it. Let's put
But
it on the list.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
I'm excited.
Then we found another one. He found Easter eggs. I like it when he writes in all caps like donut.
Donut.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're more like goddesses.
Yeah, there you go. It's very
Yes,
special.
We're like
and
book
different.
goddesses.
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to get in trouble for that.
What kind of trouble could we possibly
I
get
don't
in?
know. Get your done under the... Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think
I think I've
good.
said everything I
Yeah.
ever wanted to say
Yeah.
in my whole life.
In your whole life.
My
No,
whole
you'll
life.
think of more
I'm
to
not
say
going to
later.
say anything ever again. It's all new
That's it.
me now. Like introverted, quiet, pensive, thoughtful.
You are those.
Yes! Brandon's going to read Rest Stop! Brandon! But you're not God's favorite boy. That's Adam.
That's Adam, sorry.
God's second favorite boy. And it goes like A, B. Exactly like that. Exactly
Adam,
like
Brandon, Pipkin.
that. Yes. Adam, Brandon, and Pipkin.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, January 16th at 7 p.m.
Yep.
Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to keep using this microphone since you guys seem to like it.
Yeah. It's so cute, too.
It's a little snowball. Look at that. It looks like a snowball. So
It's very, like, 50s almost.
Yeah, dude. I like it.
Yeah, I like it, too.
For our old school radio. And Pipkin will be here. I'll be here. Kayla will be here.
I will.
Let's go eat some pumpkin bars.
Let's go eat some pumpkin bars.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Well, until we meet again.
Blessed be.
There we go.